Good morning, everybody. So, because personally I believe that education is about making a difference in someone's life and about changing people's lives and about inspiring others, my students and I decided to inspire you all today and share these talks with you. So, to start with, I would like to thank you all for coming here, being with us today. It means a lot to me. And they say humans are born as storytellers. They are the inquirers, they are the explorers, they are the wanderers. They have a quest in this life. Because they are the storytellers, my great speakers today are going to tell you some stories. Some stories about the 3 L's, about life, about love, and lots in between. Some of them will inspire you just to be like Earth, humble and embracing of others. And some of them will inspire you to be like the sky, so high and proud of yourselves. And some of them will inspire you to be like mountains, strong and steadfast during the storm. And some of them will inspire you to be like the sea, it's mysterious and giving to those in need. And some of them will inspire you to be like the breeze, gentle and comforting of those in pain. So, I'll take you on a quick journey to the year 2002, Cairo. I was assigned to help one of my professors, who was 85. He was half Irish, half Egyptian, and then I was assigned to read for him. That was very surprising to me because I was surprised to see that a man at his age, 85, still wanted to read more. He had so much passion for reading. And then we started to read. At that time, I lost my faith in reading because I read too much at university and decided not to read again. So once I started working with him, or working for him actually, for free of course, I found out that the guy was blind, and that's why he needed me to read for him. And actually I realized after some time that the actual blindness is my blindness, my spiritual, emotional, maybe intellectual blindness, not his physical blindness, because I was the one blind to the importance of reading as a treasure in my life. And since that day, I decided to keep reading no matter what, and nothing will stop me from reading. And maybe that guy was one of the guys who inspired me to be a teacher until today. Another story I'll take you to, like, a very quick streamline to 2015. I was in Malaysia, and then I met that tour guide. We had this trip to an island called Langkawi. It's very famous for the bats and the eagles. And then suddenly he told me, you know what is the difference between bats and eagles? I said, no, I don't know. Then he told me, it's about the effort they put. Bats are, or have no efforts at all. They are very lazy as parents. They just help the female to get the babies and then they're gone. On the other hand, eagles are so eager to stay and make the nest and prepare the nest and clean the nest and take care of the babies. When you become a parent, be like the eagle, don't be like the bat. And here we are today because we all think that inspiration and effort are acts of reciprocity. Would like to share these things with you today. And in your turn, you need to take the responsibility to share what you get, whatever you get, even a single message from the brilliant, outstanding 14 speakers behind me in the backstage. Because they say everyone can make a difference, and we do believe that everyone can make a difference. I personally believe, and you know that, you're my students, I believe that each and every one of you can make a difference. And I guess you know why? Because you have to believe yourself, and you have to believe in yourself that you are not a drop in the ocean, but you are the entire ocean in a drop. Thank you so much.
You may know this feeling. You wake up in the morning to so many notifications on your phone. Your to-do list is overflowing with things that you should get done for the day, but you don't have time to do all of it. This is what my life was like up until a couple of weeks ago. I felt stressed, I felt anxious, I felt agitated all the time. I didn't have enough time to do everything, and yet I kept trying my best. I was productive, and I kept trying to do everything and squeeze everything in. But in reality, I just felt unhappy. I was getting so much done, but I wasn't doing anything with my life. That is, until I came upon a book called the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient Chinese philosophy book that dates back to about 2,600 years ago. Within this book, I found a short poem titled The Philosophy of Water. It reads, "The supreme goodness is like water. It benefits all things without contention. In dwelling, it stays grounded. In being, it flows to depth. In expression, it is honest. In confrontation, it stays gentle. In governance, it does not control. In action, it aligns to timing, and it is content with its nature, and therefore cannot be faulted." I was confused when I first read this poem, for I didn't really grasp the concept that this poem was trying to explain. But after reading it over and over again and actually understanding what the poem was saying, I started feeling much more happy because I started applying the concepts that I learned here into my everyday life. So today, I would like to teach you all 3 lessons that I learned from water. The first lesson is about humility. Just think about water flowing in a river. It is always staying low, and yet without water, life as we know it today would have never existed. Without water's humble contribution, no plant, animal, or person could have ever existed. And what does water ask for in return? Nothing. Water does not need our gratitude. It doesn't even need a simple thank you. It just helps everyone. We have to learn to be more humble, just like water, because it is so good that you sometimes focus on someone else rather than your own. It's good for you to sometimes glorify someone else's achievements and someone else's success instead of always focusing on yourself. And through helping other people accomplish their problems and achieve their goals, it can make them happy, which will in turn make you a happier person. The second lesson that I learned from water is about harmony. Again, think about water flowing in a river. If there is a rock in the way, what will water do? The answer? Nothing. Water doesn't get agitated, it doesn't get stressed, it doesn't feel anything at all. It just flows right past the rock without any emotion. This taught me that for every obstacle that you face in life, there is always, without fail, a solution. And more specifically, a solution that does not involve conflict nor force. You just have to be smart enough to be able to figure out what the solution is. I started realizing that the reason I was feeling so stressed was because I was working against my environment and against my time. I was trying to achieve so much in such a little amount of time just because I was trying to prove myself. When in reality, when I shifted my focus from trying to achieve more success to trying to achieve more harmony, I became a much happier person. The last lesson that I learned from water is about openness. Water is open to change. It just has a way of fitting in wherever it is. Depending on the temperature, it can be a solid or a liquid or a gas. Depending on the medium it's in, it can be a cup or a teapot or even a flower vase. It just always fits in. And that's what has made it so durable throughout the years. Because water is one of the only substances that has survived throughout the Earth's entire life cycle. We have to learn to be more durable and more flexible, just like water, because the world around us is changing every day. Technology is advancing, and society is changing. And if we can't keep up, then we're going to be left behind, because no one is going to wait for us. So if you can't handle the pace of change, then you should definitely change your pace. So, the 3 lessons that I learned from water are humility, harmony, and openness. And they nicely abbreviate to HHO, or H2O. So now, what I want you to take away from this talk is, whenever you're feeling stressed, or anxious, or just generally unsure of what to do, All you have to do is ask yourself, what would water do? Thank you.
Trauma. What is trauma? As stated in the Cambridge Dictionary, trauma is a severe emotional shock or pain caused by an extremely upsetting experience. Trauma comes in all different shapes and sizes. In fact, there are 12 different types of trauma. However, I'll only explain one. According to the National Child Traumatic Stress Network website, complex trauma describes both the child's exposure to multiple traumatic events and the wide-ranging long-term effects of this exposure. These events are severe and pervasive, such as abuse or profound neglect. They usually occur early in life and can actually disrupt many aspects of the child's development, since they usually occur within the guardian or with the caregiver. So how do I explain this? They usually ruin the attachment, and they cannot help them with their attachment. They fear it. And then, complex trauma could heavily affect interpersonal attachment. For example, an inability to trust. When someone has experienced trauma, they usually their ability to trust is often diminished, and in some cases it's removed altogether. However, this is not always the case. As a result, they would try as much as possible to avoid trusting anyone. For example, avoidant attachment. As I said, when someone has experienced trauma, they would try to avoid their attachment needs. And as a result, they would ignore those needs or try to meet them on their own. In adulthood, this typically translates to social avoidance or emotionally distant relationships. Studies show that the more adverse a childhood experience a person has, the higher the risk of wellness and problems later in life. For example, childhood trauma could increase the effect of depression, coronary heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. Additionally, a study published in 2016 in Psychiatric Times noted that the prevalence of suicide attempts was significantly higher in adults who have experienced trauma than adults who have not, that haven't been through this. Unfortunately, some people would never understand this until they go through it. I, for one, have experienced a lot of traumatic experiences. They scarred me and it tainted me. But I'll only explain one. It was when I first got my phone. I was at the tender age of 9. I was extremely excited to use my phone and add my friends, text them. I was very excited to live my life to the fullest. I added all my friends. However, one stood out. One was becoming closer and closer to me by the day. That same friend was starting to send me very abusive text messages and very graphic photos. It got to a point where I would be always in agony or in pain. I decided to call her and ask her, why is she doing this? Why is she texting me? Why is she sending me those photos? It turns out that that person that I was talking to for a month wasn't her, was a complete stranger that was abusing and texting me and just wanting to gain benefit from me. After I knew that piece of information, I instantly confronted him and just wanted to know why, yet it grew worse. I instantly blocked him from every social media platform. He haunted me every night, and he was my living nightmare. Continuously, I grew further and further away from my friends and family. I didn't want them to judge me. In all honesty, I was scared and terrified of being judged because I thought that was the best treatment they could give me. I thought this was the best for me because what I did was wrong. After a while, I realized that what I was doing was wrong and actually kind of stupid Because I shouldn't distance myself from others, because that's what that maniac wanted. He wants me to suffer after what he did for me. So I decided to grow myself and make myself a lot more stronger and more courageous, so that if it happened again, I would be able to defend myself. Unfortunately though, not many people are able to do what I did, because after being traumatized, you would become extremely weak and vulnerable to these things. So, the first one is family support. Family support is an essential part of reducing and impact trauma. Second, after being traumatized, you would want to distance yourself from others, like what I did. You want to shut yourself out. But that is actually wrong. You should stick to your daily routine as much as possible, because if you don't do that, this may lead to you harming yourself or suicide. The third and last option that many people would deny actually doing it is therapy. Therapy is actually one of the best options for you, because when you go to a therapist, they would know what's wrong with you, what do you need, and how to treat it. However, if you are an onlooker and you notice unusual behavior from the parents towards the children, it is best for you to report this to the cops, because you don't know what happens behind closed doors. You need to tell them and get the cops to do their work professionally and get them out of their parents' grasp. In conclusion, please don't take this subject lightly, because, as I said, this is a very serious matter, because trauma could permanently change us. This is the big, sad truth of trauma. There is no such thing as getting over it. You physically cannot do it. There is no turning back to the old you. You cannot do that. You are a different person now. That's it. This, though, is not a wholly negative thing. Healing from trauma could also mean that you find new strength and joy, just like what I did. And I'm living my life now to the fullest. As you are saying, I'm explaining what happened to me in front of this crowd. So please, the goal is not to paper over these changes in hopes to say that this is normal. No, it is to acknowledge and say that I lived through this, I went through this, and you say it with pride and confidence.
Hi. What did you first notice about me? Was it the way that I walked, or the way that I'm dressed, or was it my hijab? To answer all your questions, no, my parents did not force me to wear the hijab. Yes, it makes me feel hot and extra sweaty in summer, and no, it does not impair communication. Let me tell you my story. I remember every day at 5 a.m. I would wake up, and my mom would wake up, have my school outfit set out and ready, then would braid my hair and have me ready for school. Being the only girl, I used to braid my Barbie's hair every morning. That was until I reached 13, when I started braiding my own hair. It all started when I traveled to Jordan, when the idea of the hijab finally wandered my mind. I broke my boundaries and came back with my new symbol of empowerment, my headscarf. It gets hard sometimes. I stand out because of my hijab, and it subjects me to stereotypes. I mean, it's sad that a girl like me that chooses to wear the hijab has to go through all this. Just because I wear the hijab doesn't mean I'm any less competent, any less qualified, or any less talented than the rest of the women out there. Just because I wear the hijab doesn't mean I cannot or should not participate in sports and be in the Olympics. I choose to be whoever I want to be. I mean, I can be the president if I wanted to. I can try and run for that position, because at the end, it's about the qualifications and not about what I choose to wear on the outside. Here's a message to all the women out there. Don't change to meet society's standards. Here's a message, here's a common situation that many hijab-wearing women face and is secretly battling. Once a woman wears her headscarf, she is not expected to take it off. She is expected to be the perfect role model of a Muslim woman, and that's a huge burden on them. I find myself in my hijab. I mean, I chose to wear the hijab because it's what makes me me. I believe that my body and my hair are precious gifts from God, and I choose to honor and respect His wishes and simply cover them up. Here's how I see it. If my body is hidden behind clothing and my hair behind my hijab, that would only leave my face, my words,